Hey, welcome to another episode of Strive 365, where we help guide you to live a better life, whether it be mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, whether it be personal or professional. I am your host, Justin Arnold, and we have a very special, unique guest on this episode. It is Rory Fitzpatrick, and for those that don't know him, he is the IRONDEQUOIT town supervisor and also former pro hockey player. Did I say that correctly?
You sure did.
Yeah, so why don't you introduce yourself to the wonderful audience?
Yeah, so like Justin said, I'm the current town supervisor. I've been a business owner and was a professional athlete through professional hockey for 15 years prior to that.
Awesome. Man, so you've read my book. This guy's amazing. He's read my book. And so one of the first questions I was thinking about, man, I'm a big believer in past experiences and how they shape us. So one of my first questions is, how do your experience as a pro hockey player help you develop resilience, mental toughness that you've applied to your role now in politics?
Yeah, so you wouldn't think there's a connection there, but there is a major connection. So, you got to deal, time management, willingness to do things that are out of your comfort zone, work as a team. We work with a board. Everything is not up to me. I have to work with others. So teamwork comes into play, majorly, and discipline. Obviously, to become a professional athlete, you have to be disciplined, and in order to serve the public and the amount of time that's demanded from them, it takes a lot of discipline.
Man, discipline is definitely a recurring theme on here on this episode. So, far as health, because this is Strive 365, what are some of the things that you do to maintain that health? I mean, you were at a high level of sport. So sure. You probably continue some of those things to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been retired now for just over 12 years, and that's gone up and down, to be quite honest with you. But right now it's...
I know a good trainer if you need one.
That's perfect.
Shameless plug.
Perfect. But yeah, it's something that's very important in my life now. I actually re-kicked, right before COVID. I was in, probably some of the best shape I've been since retired. COVID sent me into a little bit of a tailspin, and, last April decided to recommit myself and, getting up, walking with my dog, doing... weights, got back into the weights again, and, just trying to keep up. I have 4 kids, so want to be as healthy as possible for them and, be able to keep up and do the things that they're doing.
Definitely want to come back to that 4 kids thing because we talked about it briefly. I mean, we're both fathers, but so before COVID, really good shape. COVID, boom. Yeah. That's such a similar story. So you said you recommitted, and I know there's still some people that have not recommitted, and that was a big hit for them. So what did you do to recommit?
Yeah, so I stopped drinking in April of last year. Changed my diet. Eating well now. I don't eat fried foods. I don't eat a lot of things that I was eating before, and just exercise and maybe not 60 to 2 hours in the gym, but getting up, walking with my dog, doing things, normal. I call it normal exercise. I don't know if that's probably not a proper term, but again, making sure I get something in each day. And there are days that I am in the gym, that I'm doing, cardio stuff, but I try to do something every day that's good for me. And that's, walking, those types of things. I think
that's, I imagine normal is a good word. So many people probably look at you. I know they look at me as they see these videos and they see these people doing incredible athletic stuff. And it shows it doesn't take a whole lot. You have to do some crazy Instagram stuff. Yep. You don't have to train like an NHL pro. You just have to move. I mean, walking the dog. I know so many people that have pets and simply just let them out back, but just by taking that time to walk with them. You said stop drinking. And so thanks for that honesty and vulnerability. So many people aren't even willing to admit to that, but that's huge. You could even continue probably with the fried food and some of those, but you probably saw a massive drop off in a lot of things, not just physically you're talking about, but also mentally. And I would also probably imagine the mental health improved with just the walks in the morning. Is that correct?
It did. And I think you said a key word there is move. Just getting up and moving is the key. And it started really simple. As a former professional athlete, I just started with moving, getting up every morning, walking, went from 2 miles to 4 miles and, started there. So you can start really basic. You don't have to start with, these fancy moves you're seeing on Instagram. You don't have to start with, major commitment to the gym. You can start with just moving and then making those subtle changes in my diet. I'm a big diet guy. I can exercise for hours each day, and if my diet's bad, I'm going nowhere.
You feel it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I can make major changes in my life with my diet. Without exercise, I can't make major changes with a lot of exercise and a bad diet. So whether that's me or not, I'm sure that goes into a lot of people. Yeah. But for me, just getting up and starting that movement again, changing what I'm putting in my body on a daily basis. And by no means am I perfect or close to it with that. But you see major changes in my sleep, my mental health, as well as my physical health.
Man, you've touched on so much, and like diet is huge. And when you talk about diet, I want to be clear that he's just talking about the food he's eat. He's not. I want people to not look at diet as restricting or things you can't. Think about the things that you can. And you just talked about a bunch of them. Mental health, sleep improved, just feeling better. His workouts, the way he feels about them. I mean, I could go down the nerd science route of food and inflammation. That's specific in my area. For example, I have no appendix, so I really hone in on the anti-inflammatory eating and how it responds to the body. Some people are like, oh man, but I look at it as a positive when my appendix removed, which people call me crazy, but I'm more sensitive.
Sure.
So I know what is affecting me, what's not. Some people, it takes a while. It takes days, takes weeks. And unless you're really self-analyzing like you are with the mental health and the sleep. And you said something, I'm not trying to be perfect. And I think that's the key. So many people strive for perfection in these areas. I've even seen people who gravitate to people like them, and they almost feel bad. I had a client who was overweight, and we finally got to the root. Like, she wanted to lose weight because she was overweight, wanted to be healthy, blah, 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 the typical stuff. But what was the real issue? She was afraid of losing weight. I don't know if you've heard this one. She was actually afraid of losing weight because she thought she would lose her overweight friends.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever heard that?
I've not heard that one. Yeah.
So, Ben, you sound like in a very selfish way, made it about yourself so you could be better, your community even, which I find admirable, which is really amazing. So anything else you want to share on that? Yeah.
No, I mean, so I don't, like I said, for diet, you're exactly right. I'm not on a diet. I just watch what I eat. And, if it comes down to wanting a cookie, I have a cookie. I don't have five. I don't have 5 cookies now. So
there you go.
So
improvement,
right? Improvement. So, I took that advice from a trainer way back. And, if you want a cookie, eat a cookie. Just, don't have 5 cookies anymore. So
don't punish yourself if you like something. Moderation. We hear that word over and over again. You mentioned one of your foods. I'm the same way. I love some good gourmet burgers. We're not talking fast food. We're talking like your $15 burger, 20 or more. And I love wings, man. Those are mine. My go-to. Okay, this is a curiosity. What are some of you said cookies. What are some of your man, you can't tell me I'm not going to eat that. That's what I want.
Yeah, so I think
fun foods.
Yeah, I think I'd have a real problem forging through no ice cream and no cookies in my life. I just those are 2 things I have hard time saying no to. I'm not a huge chocolate guy, but I would say cookies and ice cream are the 2 things that.
What's your go-to cookies and ice cream?
So I'm actually pretty simple in this. So it's chocolate chip cookies and vanilla ice cream. My drives my wife nuts. We go everywhere for ice cream, and I end up getting vanilla ice cream and rainbow sprinkles. And she's, aren't you going to try something else tonight? And I said, no, this is what I like, and this is what I'm going to get. So. But those are my 2 go-tos.
I think that says a lot about you. You like simplicity, man. That's a really, really cool. So that's great. You're giving some great feedback here on the health. And he's a normal human being. You hear he struggle with things like with food and with fried foods. He's just like all of us that has our challenges. So let's switch a little bit. So what inspired you, I guess, to get – we go from an NHL pro high-end athlete. You were a business owner as well, as you said. What inspired you to pursue a career in public service? And I believe you've been able to make an impact, but share how you've been able to, or some of the goals that you're going to, as far as striving. We're looking at the striving for a community.
Yeah. So I own a business in town, and we would listen to all the town criers come in and complain about things going on in town, and You got to decipher what's real and what's just complaining. But, a lot of it started to resonate with me. And, I just felt that in our town, we would become so political. We were taking away from what really matters. And that's, making the town a good place to live, good place to work. And instead of being a political, spot for other agendas, I just wanted to do what was good for the town. I felt we were missing things because we were so politically focused, and I'm not politically driven. I don't come from a political background, and just wanted to get in and, think from a business aspect too. A lot of our stuff at that small town level, that municipality level is business. And I wanted to do it and hopefully be able to provide, save tax dollars, save money, and where we could put that money back into the people and providing them with, better stuff in town. That was, the main driving force for me. And it's kind of the opposite of a lot of people and why they get into public service. But, I just thought I could represent everybody. I know a lot of people in town, and, I ran on one IRONDEQUOIT, making it one place for everybody, no matter what your background is. And I think we've done a pretty good job at that so far.
Yeah, I'm actually one of the members of the One IRONDEQUOIT board. That's one of the ways we got connected, which I think is just fascinating. And why don't you briefly share what that is? I believe you'll share better than I
Yeah,
can.
so in IRONDEQUOIT, we have some very divisive things. We have an East and West IRONDEQUOIT school district. We obviously have the political parties. There's a lot of things there to divide people. And, one of the things when I was campaigning was how can I find a way to unite people instead of divide them?
I love that.
Yeah. So, it started with the school districts, and you often hear East IRONDEQUOIT doesn't get as much as West IRONDEQUOIT, and East is, West is best and terms like that. So,
we're all one, right?
Yeah. So, I always thought from, growing up in West IRONDEQUOIT that was more of a school thing. And as I was campaigning, I learned that people felt this way at the, municipal level. So
yeah, and I'm a transplant, so I'm still very new to all this. For those that don't know, I'm originally from the Midwest. And, we've only lived here about 11 years. So.
Yeah. So, and then, obviously we have a bunch of groups in town that represent different backgrounds, diversities. And, as a supervisor, it can be overwhelming to work with 50 different groups. And, I thought, how do I get these groups together working towards one mission, even though they have different agendas or they have different missions within themselves. At the end of the day, it's all about the same, and it's all about getting them together and working together. And how can one group help another group instead of just being in that silo? So that's the idea behind One IRONDEQUOIT. And you'll see whether it's uniting people that don't like the police with the police, and hey, how do we like each, how do we work with each other? But you could fall into one, whether you're, if you're black and you're gay, you're in two different groups, right? So, how do those overlap? How can one group help the other group? And so far it's been pretty successful. And I think the group has really enjoyed, working towards it.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. And I personal testimony, I can testify to the diversity, the open-mindedness, of the group, and just we're all different, but we also realize that this is another message we talk a lot about here on this podcast, is that we're all one. We're all one human race.
Sure.
And the more we strive to, even though with our differences, how we can unite those and work together in them, we can really do a lot. And we're actually limiting ourselves by seeing this versus that. And I'd never heard of it. And so I was fully on board when somebody told me what this is all about. And I can attest, like last week, he brought the new police chief in and we got to meet him, brought
Jewish Federation came
Federation.
in. Yeah.
I couldn't remember the exact name. And so we're bringing these in and learning how more. One fun fact that I learned during all this too is that IRONDEQUOIT, the entire town, is one of the most ethnically diverse places for restaurants. And I'm like, man, we need to talk about that more. So there's all this cool stuff that we're doing, and I just wanted to briefly talk about that. And for those that weren't aware on some of the things that are going on, that I just think it's great. Something you said. And I just this is maybe for me, maybe for others, but you said political town. You kind of talked about, well, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I think we have a few connections with, Joe Morelli's a congressman, it's kind of brought in his people, and, it just got to the point where I felt it was more of a club at the town hall, and not everybody felt welcome or represented. And when you're sitting in my seat, you really have to throw down that political party, and it doesn't matter. So if, Justin Arnold's having a problem at his, in his neighborhood, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, blank, or, something else, and I just felt that, it really, whether it was perceived or real, not everybody felt that their opinion or that they mattered when it came to certain things. And, maybe certain people getting favors when others didn't. So I think that we want to be a town that no matter what, when you come to get a job at Irondequoit, we're going to pick the best person, not based off your political party, who you know. And same thing, when you come in with a problem, it doesn't matter where you voted, how you voted, that we're here to help and make our town better.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, and I definitely feel that, and I hear that. I mean, I grew up in a household that here's a personal story where it was, I don't want to put it, the energy was not good surrounding politics, and it made me push away.
Sure.
And then as I got older, if I want to make a difference, I got to be involved. So it took me just learning about it all. And it sounds to me that you're trying to bring a more optimistic and, inclusive group of people, and just as a community. And I so that makes sense too. Just don't just sit here and talk and complain. What can we do as solutions as a one Irondequoit community?
Sure.
Is that what you're?
Okay. Absolutely. And I think that's a big thing too. Instead of talking and complaining, actually doing something about it. And I try to get that message to the employees. I try to get the message to the community. I'm brought 1,000 problems a day and very, very little solutions. So, some of the problems, with employees is, bring me something, give me an idea of, what you want to do or how we can make it better, instead of just telling me what the problem is. We all know what the problems are. But if you have any solutions that are doable, then I'm here to listen, and for sure we'll take those and try to implement them.
Well, thank you for that. So my next question is, probably through life, and feel free to share what you want. Through life, I know even through politics, you've gone through challenges, adversities, difficult times. He's been in the news if you look at lately, and if you want to learn about that, you can Google this, because it's about striving, and that's what I want to hear about. Yep. We all face adversity. You've faced it in a variety of different ways. Share what you like, but what advice would you give somebody who's going through a difficult time facing adversity, whether it be personally, as you've dealt with, and even professionally? Yeah,
there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? And when you're in the deepest, it seems like you're never going to get out of it. And I've been through a whole bunch of stuff in my life, and obviously you have as well. And there's a way to get out of it every time. And whether that's hard work, positive thinking, making small changes, there's a way out of it. And, that's the way I approach every day. And not every day is going to be perfect. I'm not sure I have one yet, but I'm looking for it.
That's called heaven.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that, you can't compare as well. I think that, as a professional athlete and just in general, I think we compare a lot nowadays. And, with social media, which we touched on before the show, there's constant comparing. And, that's a terrible way to look at things. And so I don't compare. I don't compare myself with really anybody. And I just try to, know that there's going to be a light, and it's going to take work to get out of it. It's not just going to be one day I'll wake up and everything's fine. So, look at things that way. And it's not always easy. And my son just tore his ACL, and he's a week into it. And, you can see the emotional roller coaster he's going through right now. And
how old is he?
He's 20 years old. So it's a challenge, but, it's going to get better. And, I keep telling him you're going to be stronger and better off when this is all over. So
yeah, so that's my wheelhouse right there. Like I get a lot of clients post physical therapy. What was he doing? Was he playing a sport or?
Yeah, so he's a hockey player. He plays at Williams College in the NESCAC conference, and was a pretty ordinary play, and just it happened. So he's disappointed to end his season that way. But like I tell him, he's going to be bigger, stronger. He's going to have more time in the gym than he's ever had. And we try to, I hate to use the word spin, but I guess that'd be a good way to spin it to the positive.
No, yeah, and if he focuses on what he can do versus what he can't, and for those that have dealt with injuries, I deal with a lot of clients, and a lot of it is like he already touched on it, the positive thinking, the mindset of it all, and we can heal, we can do all our tools, but if we still believe that thing's injured or hurt, it'll be hurt for the rest of your life. And for those who've been listening, or if those have read my book, I've had a host of them, from broken necks, torn shoulders, back recently, C4, C5, and it's always the belief that this gets me an opportunity to slow down, be patient, and regrow that area. It was weak. Yeah. So let's strengthen it back and come back even better. And that mind around it is everything. And so just learning that and knowing that. Something you said is you don't compare, which I think is great. I'll share something. I don't necessarily compare, but I do compare myself to myself in the mirror. The previous, am I better than the man that woke up yesterday? And what steps am I taking forward? I don't know if you do something. It sounds like you might be doing something, but unconsciously that way you have to, right?
Yeah,
like especially in hockey, pass and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we're individuals, and, to compare anything with anybody else is tough, right? So, you worry about what your neighbor's got. You don't know how he got it, what situation he's in to have those things. So it does me no good to compare in that fashion. So, but I do try to, wake up and be better than I was the day before. And some days I'm a total failure at that and take a step back. And some days we move forward. So, but like I mentioned, social media can be draining that way when you see somebody on all these expensive vacations and how well they're doing. And, sometimes people and you're like, man, their life's not that good. I know it's not that good. So
that's why I wrote my book, man.
Yeah.
I was hearing it over and over again. Yeah. So for do you mind if I?
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
I don't want to hijack the show about you, but I want to share this because he made an important point. This is one of the reasons why I wrote my book. One of them I got told I was on a mission trip, and he's like, you should write. I was like, no, I can't. I don't want to. Nobody wants to hear my crap. For anybody that said that, because I've heard plenty of wannabe writers that have made those statements, just write it. Yep. There's one person might be positively affected. And I've had hundreds reach out to me, especially men who have been positively affected by my book. So it's all worth it. But it was kind of like the phrase, what is it? The needle or whatever broke the camel's back. I can't remember the phrase, but you know what I'm talking about. It was like the final straw.
The final straw.
There we go. Final straw that broke the camel. I can't remember these phrases. And it was, I want to say, and I believe this was a message from something higher. It was like, you need to write. You need to quit putting the negative affirmations in your head, the negative limited mindset. And it was all in one day. 3 times I heard, you've got a great life. You were always this way, or along these lines. You've got great genetics, all this. And it was like, oh, yeah? Okay. So maybe I was a little angry when I heard, but that just gave me motivation. Yeah. And it was not that my story is worse or anything. It was just, this is my story. Yep. And I know my life was very imperfect, but it built me to who I am. I've always been a believer in that. And here I wanted to give a brief detail. I obviously could have listed a lot more. Reason for writing a little bit of a second book, but those things have built me. And you don't know somebody else's story, and that's who essentially makes you who you are. And it might be one of those things where it's like, you don't know what's behind it. And that's why you're here today. People only see the hockey player, the politician, the news, but this guy's a real human with real human problems. And I've mentioned that, and I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I get that all the time. It's easy for you, right? So since last April, I lost 43 pounds, and even people that know me best it's easy for you. And, for me, I'd like to argue it's actually harder, right? I spend most of my life in a very restrictive diet, high exercise, and what better way to spend your retirement than eating and doing nothing. So, I definitely have the tools to do it and the mindset to do it, but it's no easier for me than it is for anybody else to make those changes. And in some cases, it can be harder. So I hear the same thing quite often.
Would you say you have a pretty good support system? Made it not easier, but made it possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I would say get a support system. The words you said, and this, honey, if you're listening, you know you've said these too. So people have said it to her. You have it easy. Your husband's this health guy, and she's actually said, no, it's harder.
Yeah.
She said it too because she's in that spot. Like people assume that she's just supposed to be this, and she's just like anybody else, especially with their last line of work of being in the news and those hours and the stressors of that and media. So it's not. We all are dealing with stuff. We all are human. We're all real people, and we all deal with a lot. So let's switch. We'll come back to some of these little challenging, tough, but man, hockey. I know I got a lot of hockey listeners. Let's have some fun here. Like, man, so like I discovered, well, I didn't discover, I've loved hockey my whole life. I grew up in Chicago, Blackhawks fans during the 90s. For those that follow hockey, I was a huge Chelios, Roenick, Belfour fan. In fact, one of my wishes that I finally got as a kid was to get a Chelios jersey. My parents finally mailed me when I was like 27. Better late than never. Love you, Mom and Dad. But the point is, like, I just want to talk about hockey a little bit because it's a great sport. And I discovered last year, I had 2 skaters, 2 hockey players, and I was tired of sitting on the bench, and I got on. Now I'm playing for 2 teams. I'm coaching. I'm having a blast at it. But, man, like, tell us a little bit about your hockey story. I want to hear about it. Like, pro is a very small percentage, but I want to know as much as you're willing to tell about it.
Yeah, so I grew up playing. I don't know where my dad's interest came in it, to be quite honest with you, but he was a coach, and he was a president of a...
Could he skate and play? About as good as me, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So he could put on skates and get on the ice, but he didn't grow up playing hockey.
Yeah.
But he was the president of the Rochester Lions Club long before Rochester Youth Hockey and Monroe County Youth Hockey. And my older brother played, and I was at the rink every day. Because my dad coached all the young teams, the beginners, so I was there all day and just loved it. And I played other sports growing up, but hockey was always the one that I enjoyed the most. So, and I think one thing that helped me growing up is they took the ice out in the summertime. So I got to do other things. And by the time that hockey season rolled around again, I was really, really anxious to get back on. I watching these kids play 12 months a year now. And
so listen to that.
Cringe a little bit.
Yeah, listen to that real quick. For those that are listening, this guy who played at the highest level took a break.
Yeah. So, and as pros, we took breaks. I mean, when our season was over, it was over. And, I think they take probably less now. And there's a lot more, rehabilitation stuff in the summer as far as, training goes. But, if our season ended in April, I mean, I didn't get my skates back on until July or August, and that was at the pro level. So, growing up, I just, played at any time. And I think another important thing too is, because of limited ice time back in that day, we skated all the time with whoever we could skate with. And, I hear it all the time.
So like older, younger.
Younger, less skilled, more skilled. I ran the Rochester Hockey Academy for many years after I retired. And, the one thing I would hear all the time is, who's going to be on the ice and what level are they? And, that was something we never considered growing up. If ice was available, we were on it.
So it was like me with my sports and basketball and baseball and even soccer. It sounds very similar to my childhood. Yeah.
Yeah. So get on the ice anytime we wanted. So then, I went to McQuaid High School as an 8th grader, played varsity hockey, and then started playing junior hockey the year after I went back to IRONDEQUOIT. Played junior hockey as a 15-year-old, and that's up to 20 years old. And after my first year at junior, I started getting some interest from teams in Canada and junior teams in Canada. And
so for those that are new to hockey, how old were you about junior?
So most junior kids are 17 to 20. So I started junior at 15. And then started major junior hockey in Canada at 17. Okay. So after that year, I was like, man, maybe I can do this for, more than just fun, whether it's, junior, get a college scholarship. I felt that hockey was an opportunity to create more opportunity for myself.
Yeah.
And so I went up to Canada and, after a year there, I was drafted into the NHL by the Montreal Canadiens. Played 2 more years there and then entered my pro career. But so I never focused on that as a kid. It wasn't talked about. There wasn't.
You were like, I want to go pro. Like, you hear kids all the time now.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to go pro, but was it a real opportunity? Probably not. There was nobody from Rochester that was playing pro. There was no one, there was no path that, people were going to.
Like you see now.
So you see now, yeah. And so now you hear kids that, 10 years old, their parents, he's going to play D1 or he's not going to play, or he's going to go major junior, or, he's going to play pro.
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and it's not why you play, right? And it's,
so why do you play?
You play for fun. I mean, I enjoy going. I mean, if it wasn't fun for me and it was work or a job at 12, 13, 14, there's no way I would have been able to do it as long as I did it. And, I talked to an NHL scout a couple years ago, and, he said there's really no excitement anymore for some of these kids. And what he was talking about.
That gets me emotional because I have two playing,
So you have these kids now that are playing at high levels, and they're traveling by first class bus. They're traveling by plane at youth levels, right? And now they get to pros, and you go to the American Hockey League, now you're on the bus for 12 hours. It's kind of a setback for you, man. The year before you were traveling around in planes, or if you're playing D1 hockey, you're traveling around in planes. And, for me, it was, man, I get to that next level, I get to ride a bus. Like, that's going to be unbelievable. And next level, I'm going to be playing in front of 3,000 to 5,000 people. That's going to be awesome. And, maybe one day I'll be on a plane. And, now I just talked to a friend today. He's heading off to Minnesota from Buffalo tomorrow. And, him and his family are getting on a plane and going to Minnesota to play in a youth hockey tournament. So those were something I would never have considered as a kid. One, I couldn't afford it. But number two,
tell me about it.
If I told my dad, hey, we're going to go play on a team and we're going to be traveling to Minnesota, he'd say, tough luck. You're not going on those trips. So, but there's no, the kids nowadays are, they all have matching uniforms and they look fantastic. And, like I said, I couldn't wait to get to that next level where my uniform did match, and, they gave me sticks in the next level. And, now
it
these
makes
kids,
you hungrier for the next level. If you're getting that pro level experience at 10, 12, it's like, what do you have? It's like winning the championship before you actually win the championship in a way. That's the mindset I hear. And so the whole time you're sharing all this, I'm thinking mental health.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I never had to worry about becoming a professional hockey player. Like, I feel some of these kids today, if they don't get to that, then they're mentally, shot. I see it all the time too. When I was coaching, and Division I was the final. That was it. It was it. If you weren't a Division I hockey player, you saw the kids stop playing. You saw them go to college and not play. And my oldest son plays club hockey at St. Bonaventure. It's been one of the best experiences hockey he's had in his whole lifetime. I mean, they're a team. They treat it like it's Division I, and they got people attending the games. They get to go to a national championship. I'd compare his club level experience to a lot of kids' Division I or Division III level as far as fun, team, and all that stuff. It's comparable. So, I always give the advice: play whatever sport you can play for as long as you can play, because one day you're not going to be able to do it, and you'll be down at Lakeshore Hockey Rink and men's league. We all end up in the same spot. So play competitive as long as you can, no matter what level, at the highest level that allows you to play. And I see it through my own kids' experience and other kids. And, there's kids that were better than him or had bigger, goals than him. But, his college experience playing hockey is
and he's having
greater.
Fun.
Yeah, greater than most of the kids I know. So, and fun is what drives them, So I think that if your kid's not having fun, or you're not having fun with the experience, it's not going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah, and that's so important. And I could talk about the science of fun, but man, who doesn't want to have fun the rest of their life? Yeah. If you're having fun, you're playing better, and it's more fun when you win, right?
Sure.
And it's more fun when you get better. But if you feel the pressure, it sounds like.
Yep.
And
fun is something different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta, if you're going to the rink or going to your sports thing just to, joke around and that kind of fun, that's great. But, fun to me is getting better. Fun to me is competition. And also the team aspect and stuff like that. So you gotta, when you use fun, you've got to be a little bit specific of what fun is, right? So,
a statistic I heard recently, and this pertains to hockey. Tell me if you've heard this one. It was of the kids that are constantly at the youth age hockey winning championships, we're talking, I believe it was under 13 or something like that, but youth age hockey are constantly winning championships on these travel teams that are always winning. It was like 88, almost 90% do not go on to play at the senior level or play very well or end up just quitting.
Sure.
Have you heard that?
I've not heard that, but I do know a lot of other stats why kids quit, and at the end of the day, you have to enjoy it.
Yeah, for the physical. So personal story. My son, he plays hockey. My daughter, and he wanted to play soccer a couple of years ago, and me and my wife were on the same page here, so we let him play soccer. Took the whole summer off. Other than, like last year, when I'm going through my hockey journey, hitting some stick and pucks and just open skates at some of these arenas. But that's all I did, where a lot of kids are doing spring hockey, summer hockey, year-round hockey. He came back, and this has been by far his best year. The amount of, and he was good. He went from like good to great. Like it's a visual, and mentally he's still having a ton of fun. And and he asked if he wants to play baseball. We just said yeah. So this spring he's going to be playing baseball, and we were playing soccer yesterday, and he hasn't really touched a soccer ball since last summer. We were just goofing around, but the night and day difference in his soccer playing by just taking a break. And we had fun, and I'm seeing here in real life. I could stats. We could talk stats all day. You guys can spend time Googling, but I'm seeing it before my eyes, the benefits of taking a break, and you just affirmed it. So I hope people are listening, because this is definitely ways for families to strive, because I know so many families that have broken up because of this kind of lifestyle, whatever sport. I've heard it in travel soccer now, in lacrosse, other sports. But you've only got so much limited time with your children that listen to this guy right here who's lived that pro life on how to do it, and I think how to do it well. You talked on so many different beneficial things there, so I appreciate it.
Multi-sport, multi-activity, however you want to say it. I think if you look at the top athletes in the world right now, most of them have some sort of multi-level or multi-talent.
I think most pro level athletes, you got Jordan in the heydays, but even the NHL, I don't remember the stats, but most of them didn't really decide hockey till they're like 13 or 14, and they're playing different sports. And also the physicality that I mentioned earlier, when you're moving, just think of the body. If you're only doing one thing, repetitive movement, higher likelihood of injury. If you're moving in different directions on different types of fields or turfs or whatever, your body's going to be more apt to doing different things, and therefore prevent injuries along the way.
Absolutely.
So, man, I love it. What are some of the teams, you mentioned the Canadians, just for some people that are listening curious, what are some of the teams you played for?
Sure. So I was drafted by Montreal Canadiens in 1993, and was traded to St. Louis.
You just gave your age away there.
Yeah, I know. I'm at the age I can no longer deny it or lie about it. So, so Montreal, St. Louis, Vancouver, Buffalo, Philadelphia. So those are the main NHL teams that I was with. I played a bunch of minor league games with, those organizations as well. So I was all over, well traveled, and
did you have a favorite?
I did. Canadian cities are fantastic for hockey.
That's what everyone said.
So Montreal, I was a little too young and naive to truly enjoy that city, because it really is an unbelievable city. But Vancouver was just an amazing place. It's a place year round that's just magnificent. You can ski and swim, and the lifestyle there is just incredible. Super expensive and somewhere we couldn't stay, but Vancouver was probably family wise and all that was our favorite to be in. Do
you have a favorite memory that just sticks out right now?
Probably. Well, I was a part of the closing of the Montreal Forum. So, that's pretty much like Yankee Stadium to Americans. Wow, and, probably not all Americans, because not everyone likes the Yankees, but
hate the best, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I was a part of that. And that year was magical as far as hockey goes. Not everybody will know these names, but Rocket Richard, Jean Beliveau, Guy Lafleur, these were guys that were around on a daily basis. They were all part of the closing, and to be able to spend any time with those names and, was incredible. So I think that's the highlight to
that's really cool,
my hockey career. Yeah. It's just amazing. And, you're talking Babe Ruth and, those names, and as far as baseball goes, and, really magical. Learned a lot about the history of the game. and just hearing the stories of when those guys played, because, I was traveling around by plane. These guys were on trains playing cards and, traveling for 24 hours a day, and talk about love of the game and not making any money, hardly any money. And, those guys' stories, trump any of the stories I could tell.
That's really neat. One more on the hockey, and then we'll move on. Yep. I want to talk about family before we get out of here. Do you have a playing card?
I do, yeah.
You have
I have a couple.
That's got to be cool. The kids got to be, that's cool, right?
Yeah. So,
that's me as a kid, because I used to collect different sports cards. So.
Yeah. So, my kids, I won't say we don't talk about it all much. They lived it. They were part of it. And, so we have hockey cards. We have all that at home. And just a couple years ago, my one son came down, and I was watching TV, and he said, "You were a second-round draft pick?" And I said, "Yeah, I was." And he just kind of looked at me and, and went back upstairs. So
whatever,
unimpressed, but, curious to it. But yeah, I've got hockey cards. I got a bobblehead, a couple other, memorabilia stuff that's really special. So,
yeah, my kids got more excited about my YouTube channel than they have about some of my other.
Yeah, they're more. Yeah, my kids enjoy the me getting beat up on YouTube than they do anything else. So
I want to go out and get a card and get it signed by you. Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
I got some. I can get you one.
Oh, really? That'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
That would be a great little gift. I appreciate that. Well, so one of the questions about family I want to ask is so with the balancing of the demands of your career with your personal life and relationships, what are some tips you have for that work-life balance? Because you've got a pretty full life. Yeah.
So, you always got to make time, and, having a good support system, as we talked about before, is huge. I had a wife that's knows the stress and the work that goes into the professional hockey, and was very supportive of it, and helped out and sheltered me when I needed that, and also including my family was included. My kids came to games. My kids traveled. My kids enjoyed that part of it, so it made it a lot easier for me. And I had my kids early too. So,
what do you mean early?
Well, I had my daughter at 23, so that's not the norm nowadays. So, they were part of it, and luckily we have the summers off, and was able to enjoy any time I missed during the winter. I was able to get that back in the summertime.
So 4 kids. I mean, we have 3, and people are like, I don't know how you do it. And I know how we do it. Yeah. It's empowerment, and I could share some things, but what are some of the things that you did and still do? 4 kids has got to be a challenge, especially with your life.
Yeah. So, we like I said, I had a good support system, but making time for each one of them, we did things individually and as a family, but we try to do everything as a family. We eat dinner together whenever possible, and sometimes that's more than others, but we still do it today. Most dinners we have are as a family, and that's a key time of day for us.
Most dinners, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I think that's a big thing. I wasn't out running around as a 25, 26-year-old man. I was, at home, and wasn't doing, happy hours and stuff like that. We dedicated stuff to family. And
played hockey, and you were dad.
That's it.
That's what it sounds like.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. And, I wouldn't trade that in for anything. I don't think, like I said, I have a good friend group too. So they understand.
I would agree. I say my number one job is dad, and I love it. It's those are the memories are going to stick, and they're growing fast. I mean, I got a 13-year-old. Sure. I got, years are older, and so I'm sure that time flew past. Is there any, let me ask this first. Is there any memories that stand out that, that you just sometimes relive in your mind?
So as far as family goes?
Yeah.
So we had some good friends, and we bought campers, and every summer we'd go camping, and there'd be 3-4 families with 20.
You're talking my language.
Yeah. There'd be 20, some kids there. And
that's the best.
It was really great because it gave the kids an opportunity to be with other kids. We're still doing family stuff, but it also gave us time to sit around the fire with adults while the kids did other things. Because I believe time, to yourself or to with you and your wife is important as well. And
you can do that on a camping trip.
You really can. Camping was perfect.
It's safe too.
Sure.
Even still. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did a lot of camping, as a family growing up. And I think those, are some of the best times we had. And, we just bought another camper because we're trying to get to all the kids' college stuff. So we travel to one college.
Too. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So we're doing, we'll be at St. Bonaventure one night and driving over to Williams College the next night to make sure we're catching as much stuff with the kids as we can.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I'll share a quick little thing about camping. We got a camper too, and it's been the best. It's a way to carve out time and an economical approach for vacations. We go on more trips this year in a year than we used to because it's the same or less than one big trip, and we can go weekend getaways, we can explore all over the place, which is great. And the bonding, the connection you talk about, there's way more cooler stuff in and around campgrounds and what you do when you camp than you can in a hotel. And our camping story is literally, I've always been an outdoors guy. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, but I'd spend my summers working on my grandma's farm and, exploring the woods and hiking. And I love nature, and I was a hippie green kid, whatever you want to call it, since I was young. And I remember trying to introduce my wife to it very early on in our relationship. First time we went on like a hike, she was freaked out, started seeing like everything that wasn't there, spiders, snakes. But now she loves it. And the one condition was if we're going to do camping, it wasn't going to be a tent camper. I was like, don't have to pull my arm, twist my arm. Yes, I'm in. Yeah. And it's totally economical. It's a great investment. I'm going to sell everybody on a camper, but even if it's not your style, like find ways. Yeah. And there's ways to do it. Don't be limited like I was. I didn't have a lot of vacations trips as a kid, and you just gave some great stuff there. So, man, that's awesome. So, what about challenges as a father, as a parent? Is there anything, I don't want to use the word regret because we all learn from stuff, right? So, it's your opportunity to be a little vulnerable that maybe somebody can learn from this. Is there anything you'd like to share on that front?
Yeah, I guess there's no book, right? There's plenty of books, but they're all wrong.
They're all wrong, or they're all like, never say no, never scream.
So I think, from a personal aspect, you're going to make mistakes, and don't kill yourself over them, but, learn from them. And, we have 4 kids. They're all raised similar, but, you made a mistake with one that you're not going to make with the other. And I think at the end of the day, if you can be honest with them and let them know, hey, listen, I screwed up there. That was not the right thing to do. Is huge. And it's a respect thing. They're going to respect you. And, for me, some of the stuff my parents did, I didn't recognize how good it was until I had kids, right? I hated certain things that they did as parents. And now as a parent, I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And I see why they did it, and they stuck with it. So eventually your kids are going to see that you're, most of the time you're trying to make the right decisions. And I think that's huge too. When you like I said, there's no program, there's no, your parents screwed up plenty of things, I'm sure, as mine did. And their parents screwed them up. Right? You learn from them. And
you forgive them. It's my big thing. I forgave them a long time ago.
So, I guess you could say there's a lot of regrets, or man, I would do a lot of things different, but I mean, that's just life. I mean, so you mentioned something that I practice. It's probably one of the number one things I give new dad advice to if they're open to it. And you said honesty, and be honest with your children because you want them to be better versions of yourself. Sure. And I'm right there with you. One of the things I do, like if I use the word sin. If I sin to more or less get upset at their sin, it's like I'm negating it in a way. So I apologize for my sin. It doesn't negate their sin, but I was like, I apologize for yelling losing my temper, yelling, screaming, maybe saying some choice words or something. Sure. But that doesn't negate, there's still consequences, but know what I did was wrong. And I'm sorry. Sure. Sorry if I upset you. That is the wrong behavior. And I've taught them, and it's a tool that I had to grow up and learn because my parents lost their temper. Sure. I remember wood paddles and everything like that. So for me, it's stopping, it's breathing, it's really being mindful of like, okay, this is what they did. My first reaction, yell, scream, and whatever, but what's the next thing? And so that would be my advice on that. And that's what I do. And then if I do, because again, we're all imperfectly perfect, right? We're all imperfect. So be honest. And I love that you're doing that. And that would be a book in itself for fathers, especially because I think we're all guilty for that. So,
Man, we got a little bit of time left, but I have a couple more questions. And can you share any anecdotes or stories on how you're overcoming adversity or challenges in your own life?
Yeah, I mean, I think
we've covered a little bit,
yeah,
but what are some things you may want to add to before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, no, I think I overcome challenges on a daily basis, really.
Anything recently or anything?
I think this, I love challenges, first of all.
Okay.
So, and that's part of why I took the job I'm in now. So, I'm learning something new every day in my role now. I'm trying to get better at it. Patience and everything. So I think, every day I'm with challenges and, like I said, I'm working with a group of people on a daily basis, trying to make things better. And every day I'm challenged with, how to make that better. And like I said, there's some things I do really well and some things that I don't do well. Anything specific I can't come up with at the top of my head right now, but, obviously taking on a new job with no political experience or anything like that is a huge challenge. And, I actually strive in areas where people have doubt. I know that shouldn't be a driving force behind why you do things, but, every step I've taken in my life, you always have somebody telling you can't do it. Right. So, proving them wrong has been, enjoyable, I guess. I don't know if I should take joy in that, but, you're not going to be a professional hockey player. You're not going to be able to own a business. You'll never be you never win this election. So
challenges us, make us better. Like hard things grow us.
Sure.
We just got to strive in around and through them. It sounds like it's
and don't avoid them.
Don't avoid them.
Don't avoid those challenges. Go out and do them.
Why not?
Right?
Why would you want to avoid them?
Yeah. If you're afraid, if you're worried that you're going to fail, like I said, I fail on a daily basis on different aspects. So,
get up and learn from it. Right?
Absolutely.
Two more questions. One, we briefly talked about this before the podcast, and you have a daughter, I have two, and it was just as I was walking in here, and it was on my mind. And I believe you can offer some possible advice. So the CDC put out a report of teenage girls, youth age girls, and how the increase of sadness and depression. And I'm not going to go down whether it's factual and where they got their facts, but we can look around and see it. I can look around as I'm driving home around IRONDEQUOIT and see the way a lot of children just walking with poor posture and how that creates. We've talked about this on the show, how when you round your shoulders, how it pulls the facial muscles and actually affects your mood because it creates a frown on your face. I'm not going to go down there, but talk about that. Share some of the things we talked about and some of what you've been able to do having a daughter, or some of your thoughts on that, especially as a town supervisor.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to my daughter, obviously, I'm lucky she's not, my kids in general are not social media junkies. They're not, constantly on that and comparing themselves. So, I've been very lucky with that, but my daughter is, a very strong individual. She is, very committed. She's, hard-headed, I guess, which I think is a very positive thing for female. And she's strong. She doesn't need, some of the things that some of these young, girls do today. She's independent, and I've been very lucky. Whether or not that's the way we raised her or just the way she is, I'm not going to take credit for it. But I've been very lucky in those categories. She's not, like I said, she's never been one to have to be involved with a bunch of stuff or worry about what kind of shoes she's got compared to the girl next door. And so we're lucky that way. And, it's kind of how we raised our kids is, not to worry about that stuff and go out and do it. And, but I think it's, especially for females, it's, they have to be strong nowadays. And, we have a daughter that does that.
Yeah. I mean, in my household, I believe since I could talk, I've really honed in and repeated the message of, love others, love yourself, but you can't really truly love others until you fully love yourself. And we talk about what that means as they get older, more mature. And in my household, which I shared with you earlier, my daughter came home recently and said, "What's anxiety?" Yeah. She's like, "I know so many kids that have it and are taking medication." And it was just interesting because I realized that's just not a conversation we have in our house. And you guys could take that for what it's worth that's listening. but she's not experiencing anxiety, depression, sadness. And I think it goes back to what I just mentioned, the self-love factor, appreciate what you have, gratitude. We have a little gratitude jar in our house that, we don't force it, but it's optional, but we encourage to write something down there every day or at least weekly. And you talked about some of those, like the comparison, the things that you talk about in the shows. I believe that you brought up social media and whether that's a contributor. I definitely believe it's a contributor. I don't think it's the only thing. Yeah. I do believe it starts at home. You mentioned things like home dinners, connection. You got to know what your kids are talking about. Like I say, as a parent, we're the number one coach.
Yep.
We're the number one coach in their life, and we don't know if we don't know what they're talking about. If they're not learning it from us or being guided by us, they're learning from somebody else. And sex is a very big issue. For example, like my parents didn't talk about the birds or the bees. Like, hey, do you know? Yeah, Dad, I got it.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. It's hard subjects, but guess what? They're going to learn it one way or the other. And it's your job as their number one coach to teach them and to guide them in these aspects. And we're all busy. We're all full. So you said it, you carved out time even in your busy pro. And as hard as it is, I would encourage others that are listening to carve out that time. Like I have with my daughters, I go on kid dates, but I also make a point to at least monthly, if not weekly, each one of them individually. My son, we do Dude's Day. You can't call it man dates, right? Yeah. Dude's Day. And then my daughters, we go on date nights and things like that. So
I'll say this, and I don't know if we articulate it correctly, but my daughter and all my kids are thoughtful, right? So they're not always thinking about themselves, and obviously self-care and all that's very important, but there's also they have the ability to recognize what other people are going through, and they're always thinking about somebody else, and I think that helps with some of that pressure and that anxiety. If there's other people that they're recognizing or have different challenges in their life, and they see it and they're able to help with those challenges, then it takes a little bit of that pressure off yourself to constantly live up to something else. So
I love that, man. Yeah. So last question I ask everybody, and is there anything else that you like to talk about striving every day, what it means to you, how do you incorporate it that we haven't already touched on, that these wonderful listeners that could just provide value in their life?
Yeah. So like I said, we've talked about it all today, but I enjoy challenges. I enjoy, getting better. I don't look at myself, say I was a professional athlete, it's over. I'm constantly a learner, I guess. I always want to learn something new. I like to read. But I have, I would say, more knowledge than the general public in certain things as far as training and all that, but there's not a day that I don't, look at something. Hey, is there something I can do, flexibility, movement wise, to get better there. And like I said, I like to read and I like to listen to other people. I like to hear other people's stories. I like to hear, how they got to where they are and what they're doing. So I think, open mind at the end of the day.
I agree with you. I tell my kids I'm always a student. Like I'm in 2 courses right now. I'm taking hockey was the thing. I'm just the cool thing about, I forgot to share this. The cool thing I noticed about hockey when I went out to play soccer, my son, I used to play soccer, but I felt kind of like out of soccer shape, even though I'm in pretty good shape. But since playing hockey, I haven't touched a ball since last year. I was like, man, I'm like back to high school level. It's crazy. So like, again, always challenge yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. I love what you said, talking about you talking to people. Yeah, I like to talk to especially older people like yourself. Yeah. That wisdom. Yeah. You said you like to read. What's your favorite book?
Oh man,
Purpose Through Pain, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Second favorite book.
So Harlan Coben is my favorite author right now. So I've almost read all his books. So any of his books right now are what are my favorites.
Awesome. Yep. Hey, well, thank you very much. This was enlightening, Rory. This was educational. I got a ton of nuggets out of it. And I just got to learn more behind the hockey player, the politician, the dad now, the man. Like, I appreciate it, man. This is really
Thanks for
really
having
great.
Me on.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Strive 365. And if you found value in this or know somebody that will find value in this, please like, share, and comment and share with the world, because you never know how just sharing this could help another human. Thank you very much for tuning in.